In today's video, I'm going to cover what are currently my top 5 percussion libraries and give you some insights into how I use them. This video is for composers at any level because, to be honest, I've been asked by both beginners and award-winning composers how I get my percussion to sound the way that I do. And so I thought I'd make this video to share some of my preferences and techniques. Everything in this video is my opinion, and based on my experience with these products, I have no endorsements of any kind. Also, keep in mind that these libraries are not in any specific order. Different projects call for different approaches. So while I may use one library heavily on one project, I may not use it at all on another. Without further ado, let's dive into our first library. Number 1 is Damage 2 by Heavyocity. This is one of the most used percussion libraries in my template. It's incredibly diverse, so I can use it for both an organic and modern process sound. For me, it has the best of both worlds by combining a really tight, in-your-face sound with beautiful room tones. Overall, I find it blends well with a lot of different cues and styles and sounds. You can use it without feeling like every composer on the face of the earth is using the exact same thing, which for me is always really important. So I use the Armageddon 2 kit all of the time. I love the toms and the bass drums. Here's how I mix them. So as you can see, these are very small changes to high and low end pockets to give the drum just a touch of more presence, but it sounds great out of the box. I'm also using just a bit of compression using the compressor Cubase has built into its tracks. Something I love about this library is that it still maintains a crisp, high-quality sound even when tuned up or down. When I want the drums to punch through more and be in your face, I keep them tuned at 0. But when I'm using them to sort of take a backseat and add a little pulse or pacing, I tune them down to maybe -10. And then when they're darker like that, they fill out the mix, but they don't get in the way of the dialogue or other sound effects that may be more important to the scene. You can hear when it's manipulated like this, it has a really interesting and cool tone. As you can see here, we have detuned things quite a bit. You can see that we're boosting the mids quite a bit as well, and adding a bit of distortion to get that grungy sound. Something else I like to do is to combine the stick sounds from this library with the stick sounds from another library that I'm about to mention in this video. Sometimes I'll pan one of the libraries all the way left and the other library all the way to the right, and it creates a really cool stereo tone. I could honestly do an entire video about all the things I love about this library, but for now we're going to go on to the next library, which is number 2, Zimmer Percussion by Spitfire Audio. This is a great library, and there are 2 reasons that I use it frequently. Number 1, the room tones are great and they help make a score sound more epic and cinematic. My second reason for using this library so frequently may actually surprise you though, which is that it's actually the lower velocities that I really love. Small details make a big difference to me, and I love how this library sounds when elements are played super quietly. For example, one of my favorite elements in this library are these rim hits from the taikos. They are really great to add detail. Listen to this short string section now after blending in some of the lower velocity elements. In this example, you can hear how those light rim hits really help with the pacing. They also help the music to cut through more without making it too intrusive. Then, for the larger, more bombastic sections, I personally favor the surdos from this library. They have a really tight mix that cuts through nicely. Also, I love the boo bombs, which I use frequently to blend with low percussion to add some top-end pacing to my scenes. I'm going to add in the lower drums now so you can hear how this helps the percussion to cut through more, in addition to adding a greater amount of tension and momentum. So moving on, my next library in this list is one that I love for the opposite reason of the Hans Zimmer percussion, Drum Fury by Sample Logic. Instead of epic room tones, this is recorded and mixed much tighter. I like to use the toms in this library for action sequences. I love the bass drums as well, and then the cinematic hits I've used a ton on projects. My all-time favorite patch from this, though, happens to be the ensemble sticks. You may notice from my comments on the last library, I love low velocity, detailed sounds, and the sticks from this library are the best that I've personally heard. I use them all the time to bring some mid-frequencies and add pacing to the composition. Here's an example of Drum Fury in action from multiple different contexts. At number 4, there's Cineperc. This is a totally traditional, organic orchestral library. It's incredibly well recorded and responsive. My favorite patch here are the timpani, as they have a great lower and higher velocity recording. Something else I like to do with this library is again take a drum like the toms or the epic surdos and pan them against each other. In the case of the toms, I'll take different sizes. Maybe I'll pan one left and the other one right, and then I'll quantize them at around maybe 9 or 10 ticks so that they're not all exactly playing at the same time. That brings me to the last library on this list. However, it is certainly not the least used, and that's number 5, Hybrid Tools 3 from 8Dio. This is not entirely a percussion library. It has tons of hybrid and electronic sounds. However, the percussion elements of the library I use all the time. It's an aggressive, heavily processed sounding mix, so I use this primarily on big action blockbuster scores. One thing I do is I combine the extreme taiko ensemble from this library with the Armageddon drums from Damage 2. It creates a very epic cinematic blend between the organic and modern processed hits, and they cut through the mix really, really well. Also, I have to point out the BPM sync pulses. I use them on tons of projects and they're aggressive and strange. They really just sort of cut through the mix to help not only the production quality of the music, but they add a lot of modernity and uniqueness to the cue. Something 8Dio is just great at in general is creating sounds like this that make you kind of like wonder, what is that? And I love when I see or hear people light up because they're not quite sure what a sound is. Those are my top 5 percussion libraries right now and how I use them. I could pretty much survive off of these alone if I had to, and I highly recommend them. Let me know any questions you might have, or if you have other library suggestions me or any other composer should check out. Also, remember to like, subscribe, and share these videos, as doing so allows me to create more free content. Until next time, thank you for watching, and as always, I hope this was helpful.